You know, you can really explore inside of the audio in ways where TV and video there are certain rules or expectations or, structure around what is expected or how it should go. Whereas in audio, I feel like there's so much more room to play.
Molly and Hale, welcome to the ROI Online Podcast.
Amazing, right?
So what do you get when you put together a stand-up comedian that does off-the-cuff stuff and then you mash in a little social media expert? What do you get when you do that?
Somebody who wears a lot of hats easily.
Yeah. Molly, you've got some funny stuff on YouTube, but we're talking about Vurbl today. I want to get to that, but we're talking about Vurbl. You are the creator ambassador for Vurbl. It's a brand new platform for audio creators. When you think about how hard it is for a podcaster to get their podcast discovered, it's a challenge.
It can be very difficult, yes.
But Vurbl
I, by the way, have a podcast, so I know. Who doesn't these days, though, right?
Right. But when you start a podcast, you're wanting to connect with your audience. And it's like, where do I post my stuff? And then when you go and you do a search for that, it's hard to find things. And yet there happens to be this brand new platform that is for audio, what YouTube is for video. And it's called Vurbl, VURBL.
That's right.
And you're that person that's connecting all the creators to their audience, right?
That's right. So I'm spearheading the ambassador program for Vurbl, and we are reaching out to anybody who has an expertise in some kind of field that they want to share via our platform by creating playlists or curating thought leaders in their category. And in exchange, we are giving these creators lots of free promotion for their content, their audio, their playlist, their station across our social, our homepage, our email newsletters, and marketing that we do. So we think it's a great way for people to get discovered and their audio to get discovered.
Yeah. So when you say a creator, it's not just podcasters.
That's right. We've got all kinds of audio, from musicians to podcasters to interviewers to people who just have, there's so much audio in the world that I think a lot of people don't even know what to do with. And we have lots of people that say, oh, we really love Vurbl because I have all this audio. Now I can put it in one place. I can catalog it. I can actually share it on social, which was something that was very hard to do, and make playlists that combines their audio with lots of other kinds of audio to make these more interesting listening experiences.
So not only can creators go plop their content there, right?
Yes, we say upload, but plop is funny.
Right. and then connect with your audience. But people that love to listen to free audio, they can go there and find almost anything.
We have almost all of the audio in the universe, and how they started was by ingesting all of the public domain audio. So that was the beginning. And then we have pretty much every podcast you can think of, plus a lot of old concerts, historical speeches. It's just a really fascinating world of audio that it's very hard to find in other places, like old time radio. These are things that, the websites that used to house this audio aren't even functioning anymore because the people either let the websites go or they're just, they get old and they move on. So we're happy to be a place where we're gathering up all those orphans and serving them up to you guys for free.
I was amazed when I was doing the research for this, how many people search for sleep sounds.
Oh, yes, that is a big one. And we've got some great sleep sounds creators on our platform. Dream Sounds is one of them. We've got Yellow Brick Cinema, really fascinating genre. And I think because people like to listen to it all throughout the night, it's like just hours and hours of this really interesting, soothing music.
So you can not only just put your long form content, but you can chop it up into little short bite-sized pieces and then put it in a playlist even.
That's right. So one of the functions of our site that is unique to Vurbl is our snippet tool. And what this allows you to do is take a chunk of any piece of audio that we have on the platform and share it. So, before you would listen to a 45-minute podcast episode and you would say, "Hey friends, I really like this podcast episode," and you tell them about it and they maybe would or wouldn't get to it. But now with Vurbl, you can take the best 5 minutes of that podcast episode, share it on social, and then if people like it, they can come back and listen to the whole episode. So it's really a cool function. It allows podcasters to make promos right inside of the platform, so they don't have to buy all this other software. It just makes sharing and going viral with audio easy, which has not been available to creators up until now.
Yeah, I think of all the times that I forwarded a video or even a podcast and asked someone, "Hey, listen to this. There's this point in it. It's really good."
Yeah.
And they get it and they look at, "Oh, it's 45 minutes long. I'll do it later." And then
Yeah.
you ask them later, "Did you listen to it?" And they always say, "No."
No. Yeah.
So to be
Yeah,
able
and to that point, in the past, as a podcast creator, you were stuck with this old model of the RSS feed where people would have to download your podcast to their computer, and maybe they would or maybe they wouldn't listen to it at some point. Maybe they would or maybe they wouldn't get through the whole thing. But now they can stream your podcast anywhere, anytime if they have Wi-Fi. So,
the thing that's really exciting about this is, like, if you go onto YouTube and you start posting videos up there, over time, you can get monetized if your
absolutely.
videos are good. That's the model that Vurbl is creating here.
Absolutely. It is exactly the same model. So what I love about this company and what Audra has done is really made available to audio content creators a way to monetize your podcast. And yes, you could say, we had a way to monetize our podcast before because we had ads, but the thing about those ads is that you're usually betting on what you have already done, and you're not allowing for something to go viral, for you to have many more listeners this month. Also, in the past, if you were buying ads on podcasts, you could not get the metrics on how many people was listening to those, how long they were listening for. Now with Vurbl, advertisers are going to be able to see people are listening for 5 seconds and then they're cutting off, or, they're listening all the way to the end. And it's going to, I think, really revolutionize the way ads are put against audio, just like YouTube revolutionized the way, commercials were made for video. Because YouTube video advertisers can see, oh, people are not watching past 8 seconds. And so now when you watch a YouTube video, they come at you hard and fast right up top. They get you in those first 3 seconds. So I think this is going to change for audio as well.
I have a podcast, obviously, and I upload it to Buzzsprout, and I watch my downloads from there. But since I went and claimed my station at Vurbl, I get way more exposure, way more listens than just expecting Buzzsprout to do the work for me.
Excellent. We love to hear that. Well, we also know that Vurbl is great for podcasters' SEO. Mm-hmm. And our snippet tool transcribes every snippet that you make. So if you're, putting audio up and making snippets of your audio, or other people are making snippets of your audio, you're just getting exponential SEO, and that helps everybody.
You put up when you talk about snippets, you just put up your one episode, the full episode, that's one URL. Okay. Yep. But when you cut out, maybe you had 4 or 5 little mic drop moments in a long conversation. If you snip those out, you can even do an intro to that playlist. And now you have 4 or 5 more URLs.
That's a great way to put it, Steve. And it's a great way to think about your content as a creator, that you can, get those hot flash moments to get people excited about the rest of the hour or the rest of the half hour, and lead with those snippets. So just a great way to promote yourself on social.
So let's talk about you. You are a producer. You produced some movies, one called Unlovable. I went and watched the promo for it, and it seemed like it's really cute.
It's a darling film, and it did win some awards. It did the festival circuit. It was produced by the Duplass brothers, and those guys, obviously, they know what they're doing. But It's a very darling film, and the director Susie Unessi did a really good job with the material, which is very sweet.
So that makes sense why you would be the ambassador for all the curators, because you have a heart of helping something good get produced and put out there.
I honestly love um, people who create. I love creators. I love the process of creating. I love being on a team. And I love being able to create something with others and see it all finished and, have that feeling of we made this together. So I'm very pro, creator. I'm very pro anybody who's following their heart and making art or, making content. I appreciate them and I want to promote them in all ways.
So we're one of your ambassadors for one of the categories
Yes.
on the Vurbl platform for podcasting tips and tricks and stuff. But what are you looking for? Obviously, you still have spots to fill.
Absolutely.
What are you looking for in a creator that would be perfect for what you're looking for as a Vurbl ambassador?
We're looking for, first of all, somebody who creates audio and who's active in creating audio ongoing. And we're looking for somebody who has an expertise in some kind of thought leadership. So, if you've been, studying comedy for 20 years and doing comedy, or if you're a scientist and you know a lot about undersea fishes, or, you are very deep into music for mental health, and that we have lots of categories that are open. So there's no real, this or that. There's plenty of space to explore, but we're just looking for people who have some point of view about their topic and can bring some kind of thought leadership in a way that the normal average man just doesn't have, or, thought leadership is the way I like to say it, because I think that is clear. You have some kind of expertise.
Yeah, what I think I really am attracted to your platform, when you think, oh, should I start a podcast? Well, there's this default way that you need to approach it. You think, but with Vurbl, what you're saying is any topic, you can start producing content for your way that could get discovered, and you just be your freaky self on there. No?
Absolutely. And I think that's what YouTube proved for audio. Anybody can be a creator, and that's what we want. We have tools on the platform. The app is coming out either like in the next 2 weeks, and that is going to allow even more functionality for you to be able to directly just talk into your phone and upload to the platform. So we're not saying you have to have a podcast. We're just saying you have to be a audio creator. And I think we're at a time now, before time, where we're going to see audio influencers that we don't even understand what that sounds like yet, because we're just starting. We're just at the beginning of this idea of audio as, a world of creation. So beyond podcasts, there is something that is going to happen, but we don't know what that is yet. And it's not until people really start using the platform and snipping things and, just, letting their freak flag fly. And, podcasts do have these formats. And I think there's something even beyond that, that we haven't discovered yet. So we're open to who those people are, and we're excited to be here to watch it unfold.
Well, I can imagine that someone would take your app on their phone and they just would, like, in the moment, they record their thought, whatever that is. They get hit, and in that moment, they just stop and they record it and then they post it. It could be 1 minute, it could be 30 minutes. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And there's so many ways you can use the platform that if people really thought about it, like talking out your recipes, or I'm making a playlist right now of all. My grandfather used to do a lot of limericks. He just wrote tons and tons of limericks. So I'm having my family, just record his limericks into their phone, and then we're making a playlist of my grandfather's limericks as, said by the family. And I just think, you can really, if you just let your mind go, there's so many ways you can use it, because you can catalog and you can make playlists and you can make snip. I mean, it's just infinite possibilities.
When you think about the business model of shorts, like YouTube shorts or the Instagram stories, this is a platform where you can do audio stories like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And everything on our platform is shareable, down to the snippet. So yes, I love that idea.
You can set up
audio stories.
Yeah, you can set up your own station. It could be Molly Ann's Limerick station.
Yeah.
And just when you feel like it, record a limerick and push it there.
Absolutely.
You don't have to pay for hosting. You don't have to pay for all the things that you would.
Totally free. Totally free. This is not going to be a subscription model. This is free to you, free to me, free to the players, free to the playees.
So I was on your YouTube station the other day, and I was giggling. You did this skit where the couple's breaking up,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then they do a used furniture sale.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Is that from a real story? Is that a real experience?
No, no. I've been writing comedy for many years, and that the gentleman in that video is actually one of my writing partners, Philip Modest, who I think is very, very funny. We actually have a podcast together, cheap plug, for it's called Ramones of the Day, where we break down every Ramones song alphabetically from 53rd and 3rd to the word zero. So if you want to see more of him, you can check that out. It's on Vurbl, of course.
Awesome. All right. So we're listening to Molly Ann Hale. She's the creator ambassador for Vurbl. Vurbl is the new platform. It's in a beta stage right now. You need to get on that platform while it's early. But we're going to ask Molly a couple of questions here. So I was doing my research, and I'm surprised at how many times people search for what audio book should I listen to.
Yeah.
And yet, this is where you can go and listen to all these free audiobooks.
Yes, we have tons and tons of free audiobooks. Especially, I think a lot of people liked audiobooks and podcasts before, but COVID really opened up this world of audio to people who didn't want to be trapped on their screens all day. Because I think we were all on Zoom all day long for work and family and all this stuff. And then the idea of consuming content on the screen, it became very burdensome. So everybody wanted to get off their screens, but still wanted to consume content. And this really opened up the floodgates for audiobooks and podcasting. And now everybody's going to be traveling and taking road trips. And these things are perfect for on the go, because you can listen everywhere and anywhere.
I remember as a kid laying in bed listening to my little portable radio, and it was like Mystery Theater radio.
Oh, yeah.
And then on Saturday, it was this comedy. It was called Chicken Man. He was a part-time superhero on the weekend.
We might have both of those things on the platform. I'm not sure, but we should check afterwards.
I love that. I love that one. So when you're thinking about, you have a podcast, you have a book, you're wanting to get discovered, and you're thinking about how to market your podcast, how would you go about it on a Vurbl platform?
Well, like I said, Vurbl is extremely shareable, right? So the snippet tool, number one, the more you snip and share your snippets, the more you're going to get people interest in your content through those small pieces of your content. So number one, I would say use the snippet tool as much as possible, share on social, tag out whoever is relevant to your piece of audio, because sharing on social will get you more organic views, will get you more likes. So if you have a guest, tag them out. If that guest, is a famous comedian and they work a lot at the Comedy Store, maybe the Comedy Store would share if you just tag them and let them know that this content is there. So number one, snippets and share on social. Number two, I want to say we are really rolling out the red carpet for early adopters and for ambassadors. So that means, we build a lot of our own playlists in-house, and we're always looking for content to put on these playlists that are very long-tail discoverability, right? So for our ambassadors, if you come on board, we know who you are, we know your content. We're always trying to find ways to put you on playlists, to get you in front of people and new ways for discovery. So those are two major things. Ambassador, did I say ambassador? Thirdly, I would say, sharing with your networks, right? Our networks are really powerful tools, and getting together with other podcasters is a really powerful tool because you have access to their audience, they have access to your audience. So I would say if you're doing those three things, and not even just ambassadors, early adopters on our platform, we are really working to get you seen to, we are in the back of Google Analytics every single day, checking out who's sharing us on Facebook, who is making snippets, who is just talking about us. And we are happy to reshare those efforts.
I think about people talking about being successful on LinkedIn, and, we think, oh my goodness, what am I going to say? What am I going to post? But what I see that Vurbl offers is a way for you. You don't have to post anything. You could actually go and search for theme-based content and create playlists of really good information that would be valuable that maybe these creators don't even have time to do themselves. But it was a way to flip that thinking and to be extremely valuable.
Absolutely. So a little SEO training goes a long way. And thank you for bringing this up, Steve. People might be searching for comedy interviews, for instance. If you make a playlist on Vurbl of snippets of different comedy interviews, and let's say you have a comedy interview show and you slip in some of your audio, now when people go to comedy interviews and they're searching on Google, they might not even know that you exist or Vurbl exists or your playlist exists, but your playlist might come up. So just by understanding a little bit of SEO and key terms, you can actually get discovered that way as well. And Vurbl is an excellent platform for SEO. Like we were saying before, every time you create a piece of audio, you upload directly, you get SEO around the title and the description. Every time you make a snippet, you get SEO around the title, the description, and the transcription. So there's a lot of boost around SEO for anybody who's on our platform.
With the folks that ROI takes care of, they're business owners. They're wanting to know what's this internet marketing, what's this content that we're doing, and we help them understand the value of a blog. A blog is like this very nicely dressed salesperson that stands there quietly, doesn't annoy anyone, doesn't have bad breath, doesn't have food stuck in the teeth. And when someone has a question that's relevant about that topic, the blog shows up. Yes. And then what's the blog do? And here's some more over here on their website. And I see that these snippets from all of these things can do the exact same thing for you.
Yes, that's a great point. Thank you for doing my heavy lifting. So because the snippets are shareable and embeddable, they're perfect for blog posts. They're perfect for websites to help drive traffic. Absolutely, 100%. We highly recommend, highly recommend.
We like to take those Vurbl snippets and then we'll do an embed on a blog just to supplement or to augment the blog so that it's more effective.
Yeah, and some AP News organizations are using this as well, because then you can have this audio maybe of the interview of the person or the doctors involved or the police officer who's talking about. You can have that audio embedded right in the news article. So a lot of people are finding some excellent uses for it.
Yeah, imagine you can listen to the person say, you don't even have to watch a video. I put all my stuff on YouTube as well, and people go, listen to your podcast on YouTube. Yeah, but you don't have to stand there and stare at it.
You can listen. That's the thing is they associate YouTube with having to look at a screen. So that's why Vurbl is exciting, because right off the bat, we're letting people know, this is all off screen. You can be cleaning your house, you can be driving, you can be, in traffic, you can be playing with your kids. It's wonderful for like bedtime stories or, keeping your kids active while they're listening. Or we were talking a little bit about, Sesame Street and that example that you were giving about they didn't think the kids were paying attention because they were playing while the TV show was on, but really the kids were listening. Mm-hmm. So, Vurbl, I think, is great because they don't expect you to be connected to your screen, and it just frees you up for, multitasking or whatever life.
So when you think about internet radio, what's the difference with Vurbl and internet radio?
Well, we don't have the capability at Vurbl yet to live stream. That functionality will be coming down the road. So Vurbl for radio folks is best used for replays or for promos, right? If you want to share that you have some event happening, or, share that you have broadcasts happening tomorrow, you might give snippets or promos for what that is, but then also just so you can have that content cataloged so that people can come back to it at any time.
Yeah, I love that. So what's the future of Vurbl?
I think if you ask the team, they would say taking over the world. But I think it's just, first of all, the big one. It's going to allow creators to monetize their content, which right now a lot of people, most podcasters are not making any money for their efforts whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So that's a big one. That's a big one for me. I've been creating content. I've been a comedian. I've been a producer for a long time, and I have you know, you ask anybody, you don't really see a lot of return on that work. So now there's a place where, especially if you get in early, and, you know, to our listeners, now is a great time to get on, because we haven't quite turned on ads yet. You have to, you know, but get your station set up and get your bearings on how to use everything. And then when ads are ready and you got enough listens, like, bam, you're off to the races, you know? So that's number one. Number two, like I said, I think it's going to open up a whole new genre of audio influencers that we don't even understand yet, because our idea of an audio influencer is a podcaster, but that has a very strict structure most of the time. So I think there's a lot of weird stuff that's going to come out of this. I think there's a lot of like creative stuff that's going to come out of this that we cannot even imagine yet. I think those are probably the two biggest things that I would say.
You know, I think about authors. There's folks that write books and then they publish them on the Kindle platform or the Audible platform, right? And you have to follow the rules that Amazon dictates or
Sure.
Audible does. But let's say that you wrote that book for a different reason. You could actually read your book in the app, chapter at a time, maybe, and post it up there. And all of a sudden, you've got distribution going that you didn't have.
Absolutely. That is a wonderful suggestion, Steve. And I actually do work with some authors that are getting their content up on the platform. And yes, because also producing an audiobook a lot of times can be some money, you know, and if you're using Vurbl, you can do it all for free if you have a good microphone. So yeah, that is a wonderful way to use the platform. And we highly support authors that want to put their books up on Vurbl. Because also
Yeah,
then there is that shareability. You know, you could take a snippet of that crazy climax moment, or, you know, everybody's got a great first opening page, right? So
I've noticed that of all the books that are printed on Amazon, I bet less than a third are in an Audible version.
yeah, I think a lot of people probably don't think it's worth their time and money. But for Vurbl, because it is free, it's just a fantastic way to do it.
I would say from my experience, I did the Audible version, and I bet I get two sales to Audible, two to three on my Audible version before I get a print sale.
Okay.
And it's because people don't want to sit down and read like they used to. They
Well,
want
that's
to.
the thing. Yeah. Right. Nobody reads anymore. So if you're selling, I mean, I know a lot of authors, and in social media, I have worked with many, many, many authors. It is hard to sell books these days. It really, really is. And so if you're a creator and if you just want to reach an audience, you know, Vurbl is a great way to do it, because I got to tell you, video is a lot of trouble. You know, you got to look good. You got to find the camera. You got to edit. You got to do all this stuff. Audio, all you need is a good microphone. And now with the app, all you need is a phone, you know? So just it takes a lot of the pressure off of the recording of it and makes it so easy.
So, what would be the difference in Vurbl as opposed to Anchor?
Um, I'm not sure. I don't use Anchor a lot, but I believe
Mhm.
Anchor is not a streaming platform. We're streaming.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Anchor, I believe, is an RSS feed where you have to download to your computer. Also, I don't know if Anchor charges, but, you know, we're free. And I think that's the main thing. Those two things, streaming and free, which I don't think any other platform is doing for audio.
Yeah, exactly. I think that folks that might be familiar with Anchor, they know they can do it via their phone. They can do these short snippets and they're hoping to get a little bit of advertising on it. But there's so much more freedom and discoverability happening on the Vurbl platform that I haven't found anywhere else.
Well, what I think is really sexy, if I can, is the option to make these playlists out of snippets of other people's content alongside your content. So
Yeah.
if you're a creator, you can get really, you know, you can get juicy with that stuff and make really interesting playlists that highlight your work, certainly, but add all this other texture and thought leadership that also raise up your work, you know, to put you alongside geniuses, or, you know, it's very cool.
Most of the folks that do content marketing, they're text first. They think about it, or they may think about audio, but I mean, video, but hardly ever do they. Audio's like the last thing that maybe, all right, I need to start a podcast. But
Yeah.
it's like you don't realize how many people out there prefer audio only, and
Yes.
you're leaving a lot of people on the table there.
Absolutely. Especially because so many people want to ingest content while they're working, but they can't watch something.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be on their computer. So podcasts and audio is perfect for those 9 to 5ers that they keep themselves, occupied while they're doing busy work with audio. So yeah, I agree with you. I think they are leaving audience on the table. And I mean, look, I love RuPaul because RuPaul's like, he's got a TV show. He could retire a million times over already, but I think he did his podcast because he had control over it, but also he understood the power that you need that audio too. And it allows you to do so much more. You can really explore inside of the audio in ways where TV and video there certain rules or expectations or, structure around what is expected or how it should go. Whereas in audio, I feel like there's so much more room to play.
I interviewed this guy. He was actually on my very first podcast episode, and he has a podcast. And I asked him, well, why do you think a podcast is such a big deal? He'd been doing it for years. He goes, people, you're in their ear all the time. And they develop a relationship with you because you're in their ear.
Definitely.
And then, when you think about people have to admire you before they hire you, well, they're going to trust you if you're in their ear all the time.
That is a great point. Yeah. As somebody who's done a lot of phone work, at desks and things, I think we don't realize how intimate that relationship is for somebody to be in your ear, and as somebody who's listened to thousands of hours of Marc Maron, I could tell you, yeah, I feel like Marc Maron is one of my friends, and I probably don't have a friend in real life because he takes up that spot.
So what's one of your favorite stations on Vurbl right now? Someone that's really doing it right that you would point people to for a little bit of inspiration?
Well, there's a station called ROI Online, a fantastic ambassador with a great page. I think any of our ambassadors are doing well. Anybody in our audience here can go to vurbl.com/ambassadors to see who we already have signed up and who's already rolling and, who we're still kind of looking for. But my personal favorites, I would have to say, Claudette Robinson is the first lady of Motown. She was married to Smokey Robinson, and she was an original member of the Miracles. And she has a ton of interview audio up there talking about the early days of the Miracles and being on tour and, Berry Gordy getting Motown together when all they had was a dream and a couple of talented 19-year-olds. Super interesting station. There's another woman I really love. Her name is Mary Birdsong, and she's an actress, and she has put up a bunch of audio characters up on the site. And so she's just got all these like 1 to 3 minute weird bits where she does like funny voices and, music. And that's another good one to check out. But yeah, our ambassador page is a great place to start because we have lots of really interesting thought leaders. To highlight a few, I would say Dr. Thomas Lindley is a deep sea scientist who was on the group of scientists that discovered the smallest fish living in the deepest part of the ocean. So he's one of our ambassadors, super interesting. Harma Hartooni is a billion-dollar real estate guru. He's going to be curating some real estate stuff on our platform. So yeah, lots of good stuff there on that page.
So what's like a couple of topics if now was like they were listening and they need to hear this, what are a couple of topics that you would love to have a great ambassador for? Some weird, crazy topic that you have?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. This is a hard one. I know I look at this taxonomy every day. Well, I wanted to say there's no limit to how many ambassadors we can have. So we're always open also to adding categories on the platform if you have a specialty that we have not thought of yet. But we're looking for people in beauty, and we're looking for people in music. Anybody who has any music connection or radio connection. We're looking for journalists, film reviewers, authors, anybody who, writes books or has an into science fiction world or, mystery world. We're looking for some paranormal people. Do you have a podcast about true crime? We would love that. So yeah, there's lots of good stuff still to be done. But the weirdest thing, I don't know, probably like Court of Appeals, Court of Appeals 32 and 33 are kind of out there. Specific. Yeah.
All right. So you're listening to Molly Ann Hale. She's the creator ambassador for Vurbl. And so, Molly, I like to always ask this question for my guests. It's like, what's the one question that you wished you could answer that I haven't asked?
Oh my goodness. That's so difficult. I don't know. I wish you had asked me what's my sign.
What's your sign?
I am a Taurus.
Yes.
Cusp, right on the cusp of Gemini, which I think is just enough.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I love being a Taurus and I celebrate it daily.
Okay, awesome. So how can folks reach out to you, Molly?
Well, if you'd like to connect about being an ambassador, we'd love to have you. You can reach out at ambassadors@vurbl.com, or you can go to the website on the left-hand side on the navigation bar. There is a button down at the bottom that says Become an Ambassador, or you can email us at pr@vurbl.com or info@vurbl.com, ladesk@vurbl.com. So there's lots of ways to reach us. If you go to the platform, you can find an email. And we're a small team. So if you just say, hey, this message is from Molly, it'll get back to me.
So that's Vurbl, VURBL.com. They're an up and coming, scrappy new platform that's going to be what YouTube is to video. The Vurbl is for audio. You need to get on that platform. You need to start producing content. Share what you love to share and meet the folks that you wouldn't meet otherwise.
And make some money.
Yeah, make some money.
I mean, I've had videos up on YouTube for about almost 10 years now. Mm-hmm. I've made money on YouTube. I walked away from a couple of videos, came back, had a couple million views, and thought, all right, I mean, don't knock it. Like, get your stuff up there, guys. Come on, make some money.
That's right. And if you want to follow Molly's YouTube channel, it's Molly's Hilarious Shorts.
Molly Ann Hale. Molly Ann Hale.
Molly
on all social, including Vurbl, I'm Molly Ann Hale.
All right, great. Molly, you've been an awesome guest on the ROI Online podcast.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
This was fun. And that's a wrap.